Hey, what's up, Backflow Broskies? It's your boy, the Backflow Bro. Today we're going to go over the ASSE 5000 5-valve 3-hose test. We do have a 2-valve version of the test. Might be accepted in your jurisdiction, but today we're going to do the 5-valve version, mostly because ASSE requires 5 or 3-valve kits. We do have a version that's adapted to the 2-valve kit. This is the extended commentary version of the video. We do have a like a quick and dirty, and you're filling out a test report. That's going to help you prepare for the exam much better than this video. This video is just kind of like explaining everything, extended commentary about different things and why they want the 3-hose versus those single hose. If you're taking an IATMO class or something similar using ASSE, they often do the 1-hose test for all the different preventers. But certain jurisdictions, notably Philadelphia, I actually just took an IATMO class I finished yesterday. But they did the 1-hose, and then they were saying like, well, if you're in Philadelphia, you got to do the 3-hose. So I went ahead and did it. So it's pretty simple. It's kind of the same thing. If you're anything West Coast or you're doing the USC 10th edition, totally different. But I mean, it's the same, but it's kind of different. You want to go ahead and take a different video. We have a lot of different videos. Check out our channel. Feel free to like and subscribe. If you made it to the extended commentary version and you didn't, go ahead and click to the quick and dirty version. Feel free to like and subscribe. We do a lot of different videos. Definitely check out the channel. But today we'll just get to the point. So we have a 5-valve test from ASSE, the 1013. And basically this is the test sheets we're going to use, and just extended commentary on why it's required and why people like it. We do have a 1013 test similar to the 5-valve, but it's adapted to the 2-valve. So it's like ASSE, they do it the same way ASSE does it, but it's adapted to the 2-valve kit. It should probably be accepted in the jurisdiction you're in, but for the classes, it's definitely not. They want you to use the 5-valve or the 3-valve. So this is the Kruger Instruments TK2. You can use it for the 3-valve or 3 hoses, 2-valve version of the test, like in another video. But for this particular video, we're going to use the Midwest 845-5. They do typically either have white or yellow backgrounds. The yellow ones are for the training schools, the white ones aren't. This one does say training school on it. I feel like I got this a while ago. 5 valves, you have the high control, low control, bypass control, high bleed, and low bleed. When you look at this kit in the package or for the training schools, they probably have like a little hose attached to the high bleed and low bleed. I just went ahead and removed it. Typically in California and other places, I've seen a lot of people remove them. They really just kind of get in the way, but if you're trying to funnel all the bleed offs to like a bucket or something, it's probably useful. They do usually come with the kit with those. But for this test, we're going to actually have it removed. It makes it a little easier to use, I think. We have a RPZ. We do have procedures for the double check and all the other ones. Definitely check out the channel. We have all the different ones. For the RP, you have 4 test cocks, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then you have 2 shut-offs, shut-off 1 and shut-off 2. If you're doing the test, the first steps, I know what you're thinking, like the first steps is bleed the test cocks, right? First step is actually notify, identify, inspect, observe. That's kind of the standard. You just say those words. They might want you to elaborate a little more. Talk to your instructor, see what the instructor says they're expecting. You might have to be like, oh, hey, my name is this. My name is this, you know, like I'm here to shut off your water or whatever. They might ask you for that. They might just say the words. They might ask for an extremely, you know, like, oh, who are you notifying? Who are you identifying? What are you identifying? But after that, you go ahead and flush the test cock. So you open 4, 3, and then for ASSE, for USC, you have to do it a little different. For ASSE, you open 4, just let it run. Then you open and close 1, open and close 2, open and close 3, or close 4. The reason you do it that way is because they don't want their relief valve to dump while you're doing the test cocks. It's kind of rare that that even happens anyway, but for ASSE and also the other, school providers and backflip test textbook creators, they say that to jump the relief valve early is bad. Some of the other test procedures on the ASSE, they don't actually worry that much about it, but in general, you don't want to dump the relief valve before you do the test, because then you're going to get the relief valve opening point, but it's after it opened. You want to test it when it opens the first time. Nothing is different. It's been sitting there for 3 months with never opening, and you want to get that reason. The reason you do that is because the disc might be warped or changed in some kind of way, or there might be some kind of indentation where it sticks. So if you have an older valve, say the valve's 20 years old, there's a lot of corrosion and different things get deposited. So you want to make sure that thing opens exactly when it's supposed to the first time. If you jump it before you test it, it might be a different reading, but also it might just be stuck closed. And then if it's stuck closed, you kind of want to repair it. So you try to do it where you don't jump it ahead of time. That's why you flush the test cocks that way. For the Midwest, you have 5 valves. Again, bypass control, high control, low control, high bleed, and low bleed. And again, you have 4 test cocks, 4, 3, 2, 1. First step, you attach your test kit, or the first category of things, you attach your test kit. You put high to 2, low to 3. You notice the low is blue, the high is red. That's pretty typical. If you have a super old kit, depending on the school you're in, they might have the kits from the 2000s. I feel like 2005 or so, they changed it to these colors. You might have red, green, and black. If you do, just imagine in your head that it's red, green, and black. Close all your valve test kits. They should all be closed when you start. When you store the kit, they're supposed to be open. So a lot of times at the end, you open all of them. At the beginning, you close all of them. But if you're doing the test and you got something open, it's pretty obvious right away. If you're doing your exam with ASSE or whoever, and something's open, just say you're restarting. They usually allow unlimited restarts. There's a time limit, but you can restart as much as you want. Now you open test cock 2. If you notice, this kind of discharged a tiny bit. It depends on how you're doing it. But if you bang it open quick, it'll totally discharge. If you don't bang it open super quick, it usually doesn't. So I would recommend kind of taking a second to open it. USC and some other textbook creators, they say to run water through. Not a bad idea in the field, but if you're doing your test and you start doing that, I think a lot of times they might say oh, you didn't do the procedures correctly or whatever. So for ASSE, you just open test cock 2, open and close high bleed. Again, you might have something connected to these. I just kind of take them off usually. Some people don't. If you notice it might be leaking by a little bit, you kind of just make sure it's completely shut. So it shouldn't be leaking by at all. You notice it's got a big one there. Leaking by a little tiny bit. Midwest is pretty good about that usually. For our test kits, we also have where it's just raw end. You might see it leaking by a tiny bit. That usually doesn't. For the 3 valve, or 3 hose, 5 valve, it definitely doesn't affect the test, but you shouldn't be leaking by that much. So if it's blowing through, that means there's something stuck in the bleed off valve. Next step, you open test cock 3, open low bleed. Spraying the neighbors here. We're here in New York City just doing stuff in the backyard. Not many people have a backyard out here, but East Village, they got all kinds of whatever you need. So high to 2, low to 3. Next, you attach your bypass. So you attach it to test cock 4. Unfortunately, this whole thing is full of air, right? We already bled high and low. So you open high control, open vent, open the bypass control. That's going to pressurize it. Then you loosen your hose a little bit, and it's bleeding out a little bit. Then you tighten it. That allows the air to get out of the system. I'm not sure if you're looking at the hydraulics on your written exam, but it's like air compresses pretty much 1-to-1. So if it's 3 times the pressure, it's 1/3 as big. Water doesn't. So when you open it, if you see water come out, any water really, that means it's bled out. If you see like it's just air, then it's not. Leave both of these open. Then, according to the procedures right here, you slightly open low bleed. You need to do that because you actually did a little bit of pressure on your vent control. Make sure you remember to do that. You see this is open, this is open. When you did all of that, when you bled it, the pressure goes down a little bit. These gauges are descending scale only, so they have to drop to the number. If they go up to the number, it doesn't work, it's not right. So this is 6.8. It's actually not the right number. When you open and close low bleed, you get it up to the right scale and back down. The real number is actually 8, right? Or 7.9 or something like that. So you have to reset the gauge. You can do that as many times as you want, really. You're just kind of resetting it, making sure you got the right number. Next, you do what they call the tightness of shutoff 2. You're actually doing the back pressure test with the shutoff 2 test. So you don't want to like kind of confuse it. You actually sort of do the back pressure test first, but you're doing both of them at the same time. So what you do is close shutoff 2. If you have a leaky check 2, it's gonna show you now, but the way the procedures are written, you don't do it right exactly now. So you have your gauge test kit. It doesn't have to be level with anything. If you're watching our or single hose test procedures, gauge has to be level with what you're testing. For the 3 hose, you don't. So it's kind of good, I guess, in that respect. So you open test cock 4. We have a tight check valve, so it doesn't leak. But if you notice, now it's back to 7.2. Like, what the hell happened? It was a 7, I got it to 8, or 7.9, now it's back to 7. That's just disc compression. You don't actually worry about that. So when you put when you put full pressure through this and open that test cock, the disc on the check valve actually kind of like compresses a little bit, which messes up your numbers for the high and low. As you got like a low zone in between the 2 check valves. So if that zone gets a little higher pressure, you're going to see that on your gauge because it's descending scale. So if that check valve gets pushed a little bit, it's going to affect your reading in the middle. So you basically just don't worry about it. It says if it's steady, if the number 2 check with back pressure, it says if it's steady through the test. That just means if it's not dropping all the way. If it goes from 8 to 7, you don't actually worry about that. If it goes 8 and then drops all the way down to 3, then you got a problem. If it goes 8 to 7 and then chills, that means it's good for the back pressure test. But again, you do kind of the whole thing together. Next, you close test cock 2. This is what they call the outlet shutoff test. If you have water running through the shutoff, when you close 2, it's going to bleed off the pressure between the high and the bypass. Again, high and bypass are both open. So when you have water running through the shutoff, you'll see it on this test. So you close shutoff or close test cock 2. The reading has not dropped, right? It went from 8 to 7, now it's at 7.3 or whatever. Just kind of leave it. Like, if it's not dropping all the way, it has to drop all the way down. So if it doesn't drop all the way down, then you're good. So that means shutoff 2 is tight. We don't do the test reports on these extended videos. If you check out the shorter videos, like if you're sitting taking the exam, They will go through like how to fill out the test reports and all that, so definitely check that out in the description. Test 3 is the check valve differential. So you close bypass, which interrupts the flow between the first zone and the last zone. Then you open test cock 2. So you closed it, now you reopen it. Now you just reset the gauge. So you notice it's a 7, you reset the gauge. Goes down to 8.2. That's what you would get for the check valve 1. So you don't want to get the check valve 1 while it's in that discompression state. You want to relieve the pressure before you get the reading. Next, you do the relief valve opening point. This one's really simple, right? You just, because high's already open, you only close bypass. If you close both of them, it doesn't work, so make sure you only close the bypass. It doesn't matter where your kid's elevated either, so you can leave it down. You can have it all the way on the floor, all the way in the ceiling, it doesn't matter, because you have a high and a low. You open your low control, so not the top one. This just resets the gauge. You do the low control, so the bottom one. Pressure starts dropping. You're introducing back pressure into the relief valve zone. If you notice it opened, it stays open. On the one hose test, if it open, you get the opening point, and then you kind of like, you have to get that point because the number changes after you open it. For this one, we did the opening point, 4.9, I guess you would call it. 5.0, 4.9, something like that. The proctors on the exam aren't super specific on that. Like if you put 4.9 or 5.1, they're not gonna be like, oh wait, I saw the gauge and it was 4.8. They usually don't bother you too much. But if you write down like 9, like that's not the right reading. So they're pretty good about that kind of stuff, but they're not gonna get super particular. And that's actually the last test, so you don't close all of the other things. They probably won't get you too much, like if you close certain things that you shouldn't have. So this is actually the end of the test. In the field, you might have an additional auxiliary test where you want the pressure across check valve 2. We could demonstrate that, but just remember, if you're taking the ASSE exam with IATMO or PHCC or UA local near you, then I guess you have to be a member for the UA to do that. I'm not sure about that. Might be able to do it, I don't know. But anyway, if you're doing that and they have that extra test, they might have it in the exam. I don't think they will, being that this is published. This is the ASSE, IATMO, ANSI, Series 5000, blah, 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 March 2022. It's a 2022 version of it. Make sure you're using the updated version. There is a 2015 version that we do a lot. We did a lot with it, but now it's 2024 when we're shooting it. So if you have the 2015, like it's probably still good in most jurisdictions, but you might want to switch over to the 2022. So for without the extra test, they say just close everything, pack up. We're going to go ahead and do the extra test though. So you close all the test cocks. You've already confirmed that the shutoff 2 is tight, so you don't worry about that. It's already shut off. It's shut off and you've confirmed it tight, so you just kind of leave it. Remove your bypass hose. Make sure your test cocks are all the way shut. Close all your valves on your gauge. If you have high and low open on your gauge, like say you just did the relief valve and it doesn't say to close it, so you don't worry about it. If you have these open, when you do your check valve 2 test, you're actually going to get like a failed reading. So if you're doing the extra steps, which your school might have, they might not, you want to just make sure all the stuff is closed because it's not designed to do it that way. Then you move your hoses over. So you want high on 3, low on 4. In keeping with the whole way we do it, you open 2, open high, close, or open high bleed, close high bleed, open 3, open low bleed, close low bleed. Now you have your differential pressure across check 2, so 2.2. They might ask you for that. They might not though. I mean, honestly, if you can do the back pressure test on check 2, you know check 2's working. So a lot of backflow text providers, including ASSE, if you notice ASSE, they didn't put anything about that on there. But certain water purveyors will ask you for that extra reading. So if they ask you for that extra reading, make sure you give it to them, right? So you're just doing high to 2, low to 3, bleed, drops down to the right number. Well, now it's a little different of a number, but it should be the same. 2.4. So anyway, once you're done, whatever you're doing, once you're done, whether you did the extra steps or you didn't, you just close all the test cocks, remove all equipment. The way ASSE does it, which is probably, I guess, the best way to do it, it says restore the assembly to pre-test condition. Restore shutoff 2 to pre-test condition. So a lot of times, I actually ran into that on the exam with IATMO. They had shutoffs that were closed when I got there. And I don't think the test fitting setup required them to be closed. They just were closed, and you have to know that. So like, don't open shutoffs that shouldn't be open. Like if you showed up and it was closed, you observe that it's closed. At the end of the test, you either leave it closed or you open it. Make sure you do that. I feel like they might fail you if you did that, unless if you're not paying attention and you did that, I think they probably should fail you. Also, if it was open when you got there and you forgot to leave it and you left it closed, that's also bad. So you want to, when you walk up, I didn't really say it in the beginning, but you want to observe whether this is open or closed. For our case, it was open. This is a test stand, so we will go ahead and restore it to the original condition. So anyway, that's the full 3-hose, 5-valve version. There is a 3-hose, 3-valve version. We're gonna have that in a different video. It should be linked in the bottom. And then if you wanna have it where it's just what you need for the exam and you're filling out the test reports and all that, we have another video for that. So thank you for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this video. If you made it this far, you know you appreciate my help with the videos and everything. Feel free to like and subscribe. Comment with any questions. If you have questions about what I did here, or you have comments where you're like, oh, you forgot to shut this down. You know, if I forgot something, let me know in the comments. We do try to do a good job with all these videos. So thank you for joining us, broskies, and take it easy.